I wrote a list counting down the 20 worst albums of 2024, and in today's video, I am going to be counting them down. Yo, what's going on, guys? Mr. Beast! Here, back out with another banger video. In today's video, we're going to be counting down the worst albums of 2024. I know I want to get into the positive stuff, but we've got to get this list over and done with. There is 20 albums on this list. There's going to be 20 albums on the best list. Let's without further ado, get into it. Starting off the list without an album. Number 20, number 20 is going to be How the Fuck Is This a Mixtape by DaBaby. I made a rule for myself where I was going to do no mixtapes and EPs and stuff because initially my plan was to do an EPs video. We'll see. We'll see what happens with that. But yeah, this album's really not mixtape. This mixtape's really not it. They asked how the fuck is this a mixtape, and I think the real question they should have been asking is why. Who is listening to DaBaby in 2024? Let's be real. And it's not even good. Like, it's just so bad. If all DaBaby songs sounded the same in 2019, I don't even know what to say about them in 2024. At least in 2019, there was a semblance of catchiness and charisma to them. Now it's just the same song over and over and over and over again. Also, it's by Scumbag, so I don't really feel bad for saying all this. Not good. Number 19, speaking of not good, an album that I think had a lot more ambition put into it than the DaBaby one, but it is proof that just because your album is ambitious doesn't mean it's good. And that's going to be Jesse Volume 4 by Jacob Collier. Jacob just gives me the impression of someone who thinks he's better than me. And this album just feels like someone thinking they're better than you for the whole runtime. We get it, Jacob. You know music theory. We get it, Jacob. You have the entire industry in your phone book. So many numbers in my phone book. I could start a motherfucking phone book. Bars. I'm gonna listen to that song when this list's done, actually. Yeah. We get it. But, like, do you get how to make a cohesive, functioning song? No. Everything here is just insulting, from the bastardized genre blends to the who's who of bizarre feature choices to the lyricism that means nothing. It's just, what is the appeal? Gives me similar vibes to like Lin-Manuel Miranda, honestly. If you like Lin-Manuel Miranda, you might like Jacob Collier. Number 18 was something that was far more disappointing. I knew when a new DaBaby mixtape was coming out in 2024 that it was going to be bad. I knew that even if I wanted to like it, a new Jacob Collier album in 2024 was going to be bad. But I didn't know this was going to be bad. And that's going to be From Zero by Linkin Park. A band who I've heard so much praise for. At least in their old form. Since Emily Armstrong's introduction to the band, it has been a very weird time to witness Linkin Park fans, whether that is my mother or my friends. I know people who have loved this band and would credit some of their early music with saving their life and stuff. But not with this album. Just alt pop music, but bad. Really bad alt pop music. I already spoke about Casualty on my worst songs of the year list. Spoiler, spoiler, spoiler. Please do consider watching that list if you haven't already, and I'll also watch my best songs of the year list that's also going up tonight. But yeah, this just was really disappointing and sad to see. There wasn't a single song on this album that I liked. It was a very unlikable album and had some very unlikable people in the mix as well. Next up was an album that I think actually had a lot of likability and charisma going for it. It's just an Imagine Dragons album. Number 17 is going to be Loom by Imagine Dragons. I love this record. I'm not gonna lie. It is terrible, but so entertaining. And it made for such an amazing album to react to. My favorite video I did last year was reacting to that. Every song is bad in a different way. And it all comes together to make this insane album experience, if you will. Now, speaking of anticipation from the Linkin Park album, if I'd wrote this better, I would have been able to just say speaking of anticipation. Very few rap albums have been as anticipated as Baby Keem's new album, but the day this album released, all hype for that died, because we have Baby Keem at home. That's right, number 16 is going to be It's Okay to Cry with Hesh. Just such a derivative album. We've got the new Kid Buu on the rise here. I don't even know how I found this. I just listened to it and it was pretty terrible. These really outdated sounding rage beats, and Baby Keem from Temu over them wasn't exactly the best pairing. Oh well. Speaking of someone who is ripping off and almost gentrifying a sound in his own way, we are going to have Ian with Goodbye Horses. I could have gone with Valedictorian, but I think I'm going to go with this record because this one was more disappointing. Valedictorian was just a mixtape by some kid coming up making music, whereas this one was a debut album with features from people like Chief Keef on it. An attempt at emotional songs that don't go over well at all because the lyrics are so vapid and devoid of anything that nothing is conveyed within them. It's just a really unfortunate album to listen to. And Ian is someone who I think the less said about, the better. Just purely because he thrives off attention and that's all he does it for. He has no love for the music he makes. And I feel sorry for any of his fans because they're being sold a lie and being sold a joke, and it is just perpetually underwhelming throughout its entire course. Number 14 is going to be May It Never Falter by Glaive. Glaive is someone who I can feel the love for his music, and I can understand the love for his music. It's just really not for me. This particular brand of edgy, sad, white boy music where the vocalist kind of sounds like a worse version of Quedeca, it just doesn't really appeal to me. There's also like a reggaeton song on here that's terrible. And I'm also not a fan of the constant objectification of women throughout this album. It kind of sucks, to be honest. And speaking of sucking, The Devil Wears Prada, but God Wears Gucci by Masked Wolf. I didn't know this dude still released music. I didn't know he released more than one song, to be honest. I thought he was one of those, like, joke musicians and he was, like, an esports gamer or something that released Astronaut in the Ocean. But no, this is a serious man with serious music with features from, like, Lil Skies and Coat of the Friend. And neither Lil Skies or Coat of the Friend were able to save this one. It feels like, I don't even know how this album feels. It kind of feels like a mix between, like, if, like, NF tried to make a mix between Travis Scott and Rich the Kid over Rage Beats in 2024 with features from Lil Skies and Coat of the Friend. Like, it's such a strange album, and it is so terrible. It's, again, edgy white boy music, and I'm an edgy white boy, but, like, doesn't appeal to me. Speaking of not appealing to me, this one's for the edgy white girls, I think. There's going to be I'm Doing It Again, Baby by Girl in Red. Girl in Red is someone who I had a unique disdain for her music for a long time. And this album saw that culminate into the worst work of art I've heard from her yet. Just really edgy, mean, toxic, unfun music. It sees her kind of. This is like her the Good Girl Act is over album, but when she was doing that Good Girl Act, she was coming off like an unlikable douchebag, and on here she comes off as even more of an unlikable douchebag. Yeah, not for me. Speaking of unlikable douchebags, Julian Casablancas has earned that title with the new The Voids album, Like All Before You. The moment I saw that AI generated cover art, I knew this album was going to be the creative death of a uniquely interesting project, and it was really unfortunate. Julian doesn't know how to use autotune on here. He also doesn't know how to make his own cover art. He also doesn't know how to produce a song. This is just terrible, and the writing's terrible, and the mixing and mastering's terrible, and the melodies are terrible, and the choruses are terrible, and the song structures are terrible. It's just terrible. Number 10. This album is so formulaic and monotonous that it could have been generated by AI, and that is going to be the new Jelly Roll album, Beautifully Broken. This sort of conservative-leaning, boring, modern country wave that we have been seeing for years now has never appealed to me and will never appeal to me. It takes a genre that I think gets a bad rep for no reason and gives a reason for that bad rep. It is so terrible. Whether you're looking at that Rich Men North of Richmond song, or that Try That in a Small Town song, or Take an E My Ass, or Jelly Roll here, it's all terrible. But at least with someone like Oliver Anthony or whatever, their music doesn't get so much attention. Jelly Roll has been everywhere this year. Jelly Roll's like a successful artist, and he's blowing up off being a conservative asshole who trolls people on Twitter instead of making good music. How unfortunate. This album at number 9 almost makes boredom salvation. This album's anything but boring, but it is insanely insane and overwhelming, I guess is the best word for it, and that's going to be Lobster Popster by Little Big. They have a lot of enjoyment here. I don't. This album is insane. It's like Skibidi Toilet in the form of music. Totally overwhelming, totally nonsensical, totally annoying, but I love it to a certain extent. It doesn't make me as angry as some of the other albums here. Although back to the boredom, we have 143 by Katy Perry. Number 7. No, I'm playing. Katy Perry just totally loses sight of how to make pop music on here. Pop music is beautiful, right? It gets this bad rap from people that are like, oh, everything on the radio is ruining music, and then they'll go and listen to the most mainstream rock album ever. Don't get me started on that. I could do a whole video about people like that. But pop music is an amazing medium. It has given us so much wonderful records, so much wonderful artists, so much wonderful emotions throughout the years. And one of those artists has been Katy Perry in the past. You look at some of her biggest anthems, like a Teenage Dream or Firework, and you look at it compared to this, and it sucks. Like, this sucks comparatively. Uh, and also, not to mention, it's produced by Dr. Luke in 2024 with features from people like Kim Petras. Really not good. And a sad indication of where Katy Perry's career is in 2024. Next up, we have got Quit by Hardy in number 7. A record that is far more endearing, but also just uniquely terrible in its own right. The Mockingbird and the Crow saw Hardy start to experiment with rock and metal elements. This album is him fully leaning into that. It's ridiculous. It's so ridiculous, but it's a Hardy album, so I would recommend it for the fun factor. It's just ridiculous. I was on about Ian gentrifying music earlier. Ian gets strong competition from Lil Mabu with Young Genius, another artist who I really don't want to talk about. I will give a brief synopsis of this album, and then we will move on, because this dude does not deserve attention. Have you ever wanted to hear a white man rap about, well, a white man who was born into wealth and is like a university student and shit, rap about how he's a white man and he's in university and shit over drill beats, and talk about shooting his ops, but in this like hee ha ha way of, oh, I'm shooting my ops and I'm trapping and all this stuff, but I'm not actually doing it. And he's kind of goading you throughout the whole album. Have you ever seen someone with a punchable face? This is punchable music. He's just kind of goading you and being like, you're wasting your time listening to this. You're wasting your time listening to this throughout the whole album, and it is horrible. There are more endearing moments, like an Alpi Day, which I think is genuinely funny, or Big Dog Shit with Lil RT that's insane, but you know, they are still gentrifying a sound. You know, even as someone who hasn't heard a lot of New York drill music, I find this insulting, so I can't imagine how people within that scene feel about this. Oh wait, 5-Year Foreign willingly featured on this record. Oh shit. Yeah, no thank you. Speaking of no thank you, we have got Revolution by Skeleton at number 5. I didn't listen to this album early enough to feature a plethora of songs from this on my worst songs list. I wish I had, because there is so much terrible music here. Skillet are pretty much the revolutionaries of rock music, in the sense that they managed to make rock music that is pro-establishment. They've always been this like Christian rock band and like minded their own business or whatever, but here it's, oh, they're trying to cancel us. Gen Z are trying to cancel who? Gen Z are trying to cancel Skillet? Oh, honey, that's cute. You're trying to cancel Skillet. We influenced rock music by 1,000,000. We are Christian, and anyone who isn't Christian or religious is a bad person, and we're gonna cancel you. We're gonna flip the script. We totally flipped the script on this rock shit, because we are the first rock album band to make an album like this. Like, it's terrible. I hate it. I hate it so much. Can we like band together and stop cancel culture rock music? I'm sick of hearing it. I'm so sick of hearing it. And it's always from these massive bands. Like, dude, you aren't fucking cancelled. Shut up. They know what they're doing. They know what they're doing. I guarantee I'm gonna get 1,000,000 comments from pissed off Skillet fans being like, oh, look at this woke liberal being triggered by Skillet. In fact, I find your music so inoffensive, and that's the problem. Number 4, a pop album even more insulting than Katy Perry's is undoubtedly CXOXO by Camila Cabello. What is there to even say about this? Just a rollout that totally fell flat and was ripping off so many different artists. A bizarre feature list, terrible vocal performances, terrible writing that comes off tone deaf, unlikable, and totally lacking in self-awareness, underwhelming production. What is there to even say about this album? And also she made me remove 30 minutes from like a 50-minute video reacting to this, so fuck you. This is me getting my own back. Oh shit, I said I wasn't gonna have EPs on here, and I've just realised I put an EP on here. Number 3, Genre Sad Boy by MGK and Trippie Redd. MGK and Trippie Redd collab album called Genre Sad Boy in 2024. That's enough said. Just totally takes emo rap and makes a mockery of it. People who love this genre should be insulted by this. Because it is a total... It feels like parody of the genre. You know, songs like No More are totally exemplary of that. It gives off rancid vibes. Speaking of rancid vibes and taking a genre and totally bastardizing it, Popular Monster by Falling in Reverse in at number 2. This is probably the worst album of this year I've heard, but it doesn't deserve that title. So I'm gonna get you back by putting you second instead of first. Take that, liberal. I've already spoken enough about this album. I don't think there's anything more to say about it. So we're just going to move on to number 1. And you can probably guess this album, but it is going to be Peanut by Lil Dicky. Terrible album. Unfunny comedy rap for well over an hour, I think. With some of the most annoying choruses of the year on every single song. It feels less like an album and more like a Hive Mind worst songs ever bracket, except every single song just so happens to be Lil Dicky. From his show Dave. I've heard that his show Dave is actually a lot funnier than his music is. But if this soundtrack is any indication of the comedy of that show, I am good. I can die a happy man without watching it. And that will end the video. Thanks for watching. Goodbye. Blech.